Can't wait for the Ogre Battle review. Looking forward to the Ogre Battle vid. I've been working on an Ogre Battle-like game on and off for years now, and I voted in the Patreon for this next one, so I can't wait for your take. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. 4 stars. The best strategy RPG ever? I didn't like Ogre Battle.
The story of Ogre Battle is darker and more political than many of the other games on the system.
Ogre Battle has no story. Actually, wait, what was this game about? What is the story of Ogre Battle? Where is it? It's gotta be here somewhere. Well, it's certainly not here. So I ventured into the forest in search of the story of Ogre Battle. It was a perilous journey because I forgot to wear shoes and my walking stick was not very good. I searched high and I searched low. I thought my quest was over when I came across this no trespassing sign, but I persevered and eventually I found the story of Ogre Battle. That's it? Yeah, I know. It's a huge cult hit, and I'm sorry, Fargo Retro. I'll totally try your game out if you release it, but Ogre Battle didn't really click with me. This is a tricky one to review, because even though I didn't enjoy it, and I don't think it's particularly graceful at implementing what it wanted to, a part of me still does respect what it was going for. Before I get into the shit, I'll acknowledge that I played this game obviously wrong, probably in more ways than even I realize now. It took me most of the game to grasp what was going on, and even after finishing it, I'm still not sure I understand half of its mechanics. Be warned, there's a lot of bad gameplay ahead. Lots of finishing stages only to get 0 goth rewards. You see this bar on the top right? I didn't know what it was until halfway through the game when I looked up a PDF of the manual. That's your reputation, by the way. Incredibly simplified, it's how well you're playing the game, and yeah, it's going to be at or near the bottom this entire video. Watching my footage will no doubt trigger Ogre Battle diehards. There's so much to unpack, so allow me to explain what this game is first before I go more into the why or how, because it's really effing bizarre. Going in, I thought this was just going to be Fire Emblem, or maybe Final Fantasy Tactics with ogres, because recently, Tactics Ogre got a modern remaster. I saw footage of that, I've seen people play that, and I thought Ogre Battle and Tactics Ogre were the same game, like the Live Alive remake. To clear up any confusion, the new one is not a remaster of this game, but of its sequel, which was only released in Japan. Ogre Battle is something entirely different from Tactics Ogre. Similar name, same series, completely different games. And the worst part is that Ogre Battle doesn't even have any ogres. The game I played, Battle, not Tactics, is a real-time strategy game, where the only thing you directly control are how your units are placed on the map. There's one tutorial level that sets up how to move your units, that your objective is to liberate cities and defeat a boss. But even here, you're kind of just left to fumble around. Do these smaller buildings mean anything, or just the large ones? What's with the thimble with a question mark on it? Welcome to my castle. I have been waiting for you. Please liberate all the towns and temples on this island. Okay. How do I do that? Do I just walk over them? After a moment, this terrifying screen pops up. Tributes? I need to pay my army? Also, do I need to liberate where I started? So you get through that, and in Mission 2, you're thrown right into the deep end. Instead of only having yourself to worry about like in the tutorial, now you have to manage 10 different squadrons, each one with multiple characters, with unique names and stats and an inventory slot. You're given all these options to rearrange everyone's formations, to add and drop units, to equip items. What, equip items for all 60-ish people in my army? It's hard enough to manage equipment for a standard party of 4 or 5, let alone all these people. Then you get into a battle and what the fuck is going on? Except instead of 8-year-olds saying that like in Mario, now I'm the one doing it. You don't control battles directly. You can dictate overall tactics, such as targeting their weakest enemies, or what I had it set on most of the time, to attack a squadron's leader. You can also give your side little boosts by using tarot cards. You gain cards by liberating towns, and they do various things. Some of them are stat boosts, some of them deal direct damage to the enemy, but aside from maybe nudging a fight in the direction you want it to go, there's not much else to do. I wish you could skip these battle scenes. You can turn off animations, but every battle still takes between 30 seconds to a minute each, even with those off. You should be able to let them play out if the player wants, but there should also be an option to just have them play out instantaneously on the overworld. Ogre Battle is already the slowest of burns as it is, and the auto battling feels more like it's here as a necessity more than anything. Chapters would routinely take me over 4 hours, at least until I had a realization almost at the end of the game. And I cannot imagine how much longer this game would have taken if I had to individually select each and every attack. Auto-attacking speeds up the process immensely, but this game could have used a lot more of speeding up the process immensely. It's a little like playing poker in that all you can really do is put yourself in the best situation to win, but you can't usually directly control the outcome. There's no permadeath or anything. In fact, you can even revive units mid-chapter, something I didn't realize until halfway through the game. This guy right here tells you that temples revive dead units in the tutorial, but I didn't listen, or at least I didn't internalize that, because the first 10 or so fights, I was having a real rough time. This one time I spent 4 hours and 27 minutes doing one chapter, only to lose. And you can't save mid-chapter, so I had to redo the entire thing from the beginning. If I had known about revives, I guarantee I wouldn't have lost, then it wouldn't have been a problem. It was one of the most heartbreaking losses I've suffered in a video game, and it came purely because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Like, look at this. Look at my crew. Do they look like they know what they're doing? We look like a Mormon missionary group. Even though most things happen automatically, you can't really be hands-off. You're constantly making small adjustments, trying to counter whatever the enemy is doing. You can only see the other side's units if they're near one of yours. So when you tell one of your people to do something, that's before you know where anyone is. As you gain information, you'll either want to engage or avoid the enemy. Fights can end in any one of 4 ways. A total loss, when every character on a side is killed, in which case that entire squad is wiped out and is out of the chapter forever, where only the leader and like some other units are defeated, but other people survived, in which case they're transformed into this skull with squid legs on the Mode 7 map. Squids are not allowed to liberate towns or shop at shops or do much of anything other than fight. But you also lose direct control of them. They'll always walk in a straight line back to your home base. In which case, if it's you, you can appoint a new leader and send them back out. Or if it's the enemy, everyone is instantly revived and that whole squadron is put back into play. In this case, it's like pulling a weed. You need to get everyone or else that unit will just come back. Battles also end after a certain amount of time has passed, in which case the game will just stop and declare a winner. Then the loser's unit is bumped back and off the path they were set on before, with the winner just keep going in the direction they were going. In these instances, I hate how the game decides who won. Look at this example. I end this battle with all my units alive and killed one of theirs. Clearly, the CPU is in a worse spot than they were when they started. Yet the game still says that the CPU won. And that's because they base it off of total damage dealt, and it doesn't factor in whatever you heal. What I would end up doing, my dominant strategy for most of the game, is what I like to call circling the wagons. I would let the enemy almost all the way to my base, set the battle tactic to target their leader, kill him, turning the enemy into squids. Then once they're squids, they have a predictable trajectory. They just go in a straight line back to their own base. I would then have units of my own circle around, or they would already be behind the enemy, but they would close in and finish them off before they could get back. It was kind of time consuming and annoying, and I did all of this until I realized I was grossly overthinking my tactics in this game. An aha moment I had when there were only 3 chapters left. You see, you're allowed to have 10 units out at a time, and for most of the game, I would have all 10 on the battlefield at once because I didn't really see any reason not to. The way Ogre Battle is supposed to deter this is that each unit costs money to deploy, but I never really had a problem with money. There was always plenty to go around. Plus, you can easily infinitely grind for as much money as you need by just waiting at the end of a chapter for payday to come. Nothing is timed, so once all the enemy units are defeated, you can just sit back and wait for an endless supply of money to keep coming in forever. Not that I did that or anything, but you could have if you were having money problems. The only drawback I could think of to having all these units out was splitting up the pool of EXP with too many characters, spreading out my levels too thin and leaving me underpowered. But I was getting by pretty good, especially after I discovered you could revive people. After learning about that, I was never worried about losing. My only real obstacle was time, and battles were taking forever. Even in dominating victories, in the second half of the game, it was taking me at least 3.5 hours to finish a chapter. Then it hit me. Not only do you not need 10 units out at the same time, having all 10 on the battlefield makes the game 10 times slower. More units means more time spent managing said units, and that's why everything was taking so damn long. At a certain point, you're reaching diminishing returns. Having 50 capable characters isn't that much better than having 15 capable characters. At any given point, you only really need 3 squads at a time. One to defend home base, one to liberate towns, and one to rush the enemy. And if you really want to skimp, you don't even need the liberate town team. You could just have one guarding the base and one attacking the enemy. I felt so stupid, so I put all of my best characters into one squad, had them walk in a straight line up to the enemy base, and started wrecking shit. Started just absolutely decimating the game. None of the last 3 chapters took me longer than 45 minutes to complete after I figured all this out. Even the finale, with its 3 final bosses, didn't put up much resistance. So to reiterate, the best strat ended up being put your 4 best people into one unit, then just have them solo everybody. You will win every fight, and if you don't, if one of your character dies, you can just revive them, because it's not like money is an issue, especially since you're saving so much by only having 1 or 2 out at a time. If you look up speedruns of Ogre Battle, they'll finish the whole game in an hour flat by doing just this. So Ogre Battle is supposed to be this hardcore tactical, micromanagement heavy styled game, but then it gets broken by just having your best characters walk in a straight line directly up to the stage boss. When the best way to play your game is to ignore most of the game, I have to call that a failure. Ogre Battle is gorgeous, great sprite work, and the battle screens especially look fantastic. As I joked about in the intro, there is no plot, and I'm not being cute as in like the plot is there, but it's so thin that I'm just choosing to ignore it, or it's so cliched that it doesn't matter. I mean, there's virtually no plot, as in there's no dialogue between chapters. All you really get are a few lines after you liberate towns, and they don't really tell you one coherent story. They just tell you about a bunch of bad shit that the evil empire did to them. It's like, okay, there's an evil empire, you're a resistance group that's fighting to overthrow said empire. Telling you about things that the empire has done to the people, well, that fleshes out a world, it doesn't tell a story. It's like Ogre Battle is filled with tons of things that would make good details to like an overall story, and then it just doesn't really have one. And even then, only like half of this is related to anything like that, with the other half just being like gameplay hints or how to find hidden towns or recruitable characters. The closest morsel to anything story related I recall is that chapter where everyone hates you, which was pretty funny. I don't know if this changes whether or not your reputation is high or low, but they hated me. Ogre Battle contains multiple endings. Remember that reputation bar? The higher you get it, the nicer the outcome. There may be other factors, but that bar is the main one. It goes without saying that I got the worst ending, and it's pretty goofy. The empire that Poser has created is worse than the Zagentian Empire, and now more lives must be lost to bring it down. You fool, Poser! You will meet the same fate as Endora. Well, that's just a shame. I like the idea of a morale-based system resulting in multiple endings, but the way it's implemented here is so esoteric and obtuse. The main way your reputation rises is by liberating towns, but you lose points when the enemy retakes them. Actually, I should say, you lose way more points when the enemy liberates them. My advice to myself if I were to do a second playthrough: don't liberate any towns until you've defeated all the enemy units. Wait at your home base, let the enemy come to you. It may take 5, 6, 7 hours a chapter, but don't mess with any of this liberation shit until every single enemy is defeated. Until you know that the map is secure. Any way you slice it, Ogre Battle insists on being played in the most unfun and stupid ways. Either they're boring grinds for reputation points, or they're no-thought dick-slapping contests. I did not use a guide, but this is a guide game for sure. I know I missed out on side quests and hidden maps and characters because either my reputation wasn't high enough or because I simply could not figure out what to do. Every stage has items and towns and loads of hidden shit, but I wasn't about to comb every pixel for them. Ogre Battle isn't overly long, but it still took me over 57 hours to beat, if that makes sense, and hopefully it does. There's not a lot of content, is what I'm trying to say, or at least not as much as I thought there would be. There's 25 chapters, and if you go into the game with the super team strat already in mind, I'll reckon you could do each and every one of them in under an hour. I think you really have to enjoy replaying the same game over and over again to get into this. From what I hear, pretty much nobody does well their first time, then on your second or even third playthroughs you really start to appreciate it, but I'm not nearly obsessive enough for that. I like to get in, get out, have a good time. You need to be special to make me want to play through you again. It's just who I am. I guess I'll go as high as an okay for Ogre Battle. Neat idea, but I didn't really enjoy my time with it. Lufia 2 will be the next episode. Shout out to William Robert Lee. Shout out to all of the very generous patrons. Shout out to RPG Fortress for shouting me out. He's a cool guy, has a cool channel. If you like my videos, check him out. I recently passed 3,000 subscribers. Am I getting to a point where every 1,000 isn't a milestone anymore? I've been averaging about 150 subscribers a month for the past 6 months, and an episode of every SNES RPG is at a point where I'll get 1,000-ish views in a few days, and then it'll slowly climb from there, which is great to see. I remember when these wouldn't break 100 unless I heavily self-promoted. I would get like 20 or 30 views, and to see that there's a base of around 1,000 of you that turn up for these really keeps me going video after video. I've done 43 now, and there's at least 43 more potentially to do. Thanks if you watched the Barbie video too. I knew it probably wouldn't do very well, and it didn't, but that one was a lot of fun to make. Anyway, I've droned on long enough about Ogre Battle. I've droned on long enough about my channel. That's all I got. Never trust anybody who needs a haircut. Goodbye.